3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GrokTALK.com. We are your feared, extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio, microphone-stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GrokTALK.com.
GrokTALK.
Welcome back to Segment 3. This is GrokTALK, brought to you by GraniteGrok.com and the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. Please take a few minutes to donate at GraniteGrok.com to support the program and the costs of operating this cute little quaint programming thingy that we got going on here. This is show 91, by the way, for those of you keeping score at home. We've been at it for a little while. Show number 100 is coming up pretty soon. We're going to try to plan something special. I don't know what we're going to do, but it's coming 9 weeks from now, and hopefully, maybe we'll get all the presidential candidates on.
Does that also include the previous incarnations?
No, absolutely not.
No, this is show 91.
I don't count those.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was a strange experiment on a mountain, and it didn't work out. And
Oh, it worked very well until I couldn't keep up.
No, well, that's just it. So you have your show in the middle of nowhere, and we couldn't get to the middle of nowhere, so you had to do it by yourself, which was very frustrating.
Anyway, so it's the 91st edition of Steve Talk with Skip and Mike.
Steve Talk with Skip and Mike. I actually do the least amount of talking of everybody in the room. So it's really not Steve Talk. It's Grok Talk, and we're going to have some more Grok Talk because we have a new surprise guest that we didn't originally have scheduled. Dr. Betsy McCaughey is with us. Good morning.
How are you? I'm always glad to join your program. Real straight talkers.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I believe we were going to talk about King v. Burwell. Is that what you were told?
Yes, and I'm excited to give you an update. I was just on a conference call with Congressman Paul Ryan, and here is the latest. First of all, disregard all those shrieking mainstream media predictions that if the 9 justices or a majority of them strike down the current administration's implementation of ObamaCare, that many, many millions of people will suffer. In fact, people will be far better off than they are now. And the Republicans in Congress have gotten their act together. They have devised what they call the exit ramp strategy from Obamacare so that there won't be a lot of disruption and people won't find themselves suddenly uninsured. And they have this plan, which they are now putting into bill form. It will be scored by the Congressional Budget Office for cost and introduced into Congress before the Supreme Court announces its decision in this case at the end of June. So if, as many people predict, and we all hope, if the challengers to the current administration win, then the Congress will right away pass that bill and put it on the president's desk, and it will ensure a smooth transition out of Obamacare into freedom and lower-cost health insurance.
And therefore put the president on the spot by having to sign it.
That's right.
You know, one of the things, Betsy, that I just find so ironic that in looking at some of the transcripts of the oral arguments in front, we saw the liberals like Kagan and all the folks on that side say, oh, well, this would be a bad thing. Look at all the millions of people that will be hurt versus the conservatives looking at the actual verbiage of the law. And I keep thinking, isn't that what at the very least, what the Supremes is supposed to be looking at? Not the externalities of bad legislation, but just the fact, what does that legislation actually say in black and white? Because that's really what this whole case is about.
And that's what this case is about. The Obama administration defied the actual text of the law and the will of the American people and provided subsidies in all 50 states, even though the letter of the law says those taxpayer-funded subsidies can only be handed out in the 14 states that actually set up their own exchanges. So, that being said, of course the job of the Supreme Court is to implement the law as written, to insist that the president do that. But the left is quite right that the justices have in the past, on occasion, been sensitive to the practical outcomes of their decisions And so they have exaggerated, distorted, just plain lied about what the outcome would be. In fact, although 6 to 8 million people would not be able to get their taxpayer-funded subsidy from Obamacare, under the plan that the Republicans have devised, they would get a tax credit for a particular period of time until the new plans are available. And the fact is that a year from that decision, here is what you would actually see in America. You would see 37 states in which people are free to choose what kind of health insurance they want to buy. It doesn't have to be the one-size-fits-all government-designed package. They're free to have health insurance or not to have health insurance. The employer mandate is no longer in effect, so that people can get their full-time jobs back. Employers won't be incentivized to keep their workforce below 50 or keep their workers working fewer than 30 hours a week. So it's going to be a big boost for the jobs market. And Americans will feel free to buy health insurance in their own state or some other state. They're going to actually be able to make decisions and buy it any day of the year, by the way, not just when Uncle Sam holds a gun to their heads and says you must have health insurance and you have to buy it this week during the open enrollment period.
And that really is what this is all about. And with what we've seen from the EPA coming out this week, where they want to regulate the amount of water and time of a shower, they're going after the water. Oh, yeah. Have you heard about that?
Oh, of course. And by the way, the USDA and the Department of Health and Human Services wants to send interveners.
Yes.
Interveners to tell people how much they should eat.
Yeah, as a result of the new dietary considerations, which are based in no small part on harm to the planet. And they truly believe that it is their mission to change the behavior of every single American on what they eat. Forcefully, yes, absolutely. And now you see that it's either I think it's the EPA and the FDA are now going to be set, because of Michelle Obama's school lunch law, they're going to send people out to the daycares now where it will be mandatory for those folks, be they institutional or home daycares, and I say this from an authority of having owned both, that they're going to get in the faces of the people who prepare the food and mandate whether or not it's the right thing or not. They're going to weigh the kids to see if they're obese.
Isn't that shocking? If the federal government comes in and tries to weigh my grandchildren, it's over for me. Grab the shotgun, baby.
Julius Caesar's food police. Julius Caesar sent his own enforcement agents, his own police around, looking in people's windows to make sure that they weren't eating too extravagantly.
Really?
That was the straw that broke the camel's back, and that was the end of Julius Caesar's widespread public support.
Well, getting back to King versus Burwell, because I know some of your listeners really want to know what the update is. I also listened carefully as Carvin, who's the lawyer for our plaintiffs, and Ryan discussed their predictions. And, of course, it's always hard to predict how the Supreme Court will rule. We learned that big time. But the fact is that we're still slightly optimistic. It's probably still slightly better than a 50% chance that we will win in June. And we're a little less optimistic than before we heard Justice Kennedy ask some of his questions, which seemed to focus on this so-called damage done. But nevertheless, if the Supremes decide to rule on the text of the law itself, there's no question who will win this case.
Well, the question will be, once again, you're right that Kennedy is going to be the swing vote, but based on the last decision, we've got Roberts sitting there that basically said, yes, the government has the ability to tax you for doing nothing as a punishment, and, not a fine, but a tax for doing nothing. What's the speculation, or did they speculate as to how he's going to rule?
Well, they didn't, because the fact is Roberts said almost nothing at this oral argument, so it's impossible to speculate. That's why we're not sanguine, but we're hopeful.
Well,
now, by the way, Paul Ryan said something on this call that I've said many times when I came to New Hampshire, and I'm going to say it again today because I know New Hampshire, you were all so embroiled in this issue of the Medicaid expansion. And he reminded us that every single budget discussion occurring in Washington includes reducing that federal match, that 90% promise, and he knew additions to Medicaid rolls will be paid for 90% by the federal government. He says they're already writing the language to eliminate that.
I brought that up to the people, the New Hampshire state Republican senators, who shoved this thing down, who lied to my face when they said, well, one thing, and then they actually did another. I said, look, the rumblings are already happening that you're not going to get the money. Then what are you going to do? And, well, it's free money from the feds. It's like, no, everybody at this table is a federal taxpayer. Don't lie to me. And yet that's what they did.
But and even more important than that truth, the fact is that politicians always lie. They're going to pull the rug out from under you. You're going to enroll new people into Medicaid. It's very hard to take back an entitlement once you give it. And then you will find that the feds break their promise, and New Hampshire taxpayers are stuck with this bill, which means not enough money for roads, schools, and other things.
Roads. What? Why are you pointing at me?
Because you were just having a rant at the beginning of the program about this whole deal with the gas tax.
Yeah. They took this
Betsy,
bill.
You got to listen to
They
Steve.
took this bill. The purpose of the bill was to extend the time allowed to update your address on your registration or your license from 10 days to 30 days. By the time it hit the floor of the House, it was amended with something like 56 pages of the entire funding of the Department of Transportation and included a gas tax. Republicans did that.
And the reason,
shame on them.
Well, Democrats did that.
Yeah, but the reason for this, Betsy, is that the current Medicaid expansion has turned out to be far more expensive than what the Republicans described by Glenn Beck as the spine of a worm, the ethics of whores, and the integrity of pirates, as he quit the party. But I'm looking at the same thing. These guys have brought this problem upon themselves by having government do something that it probably shouldn't have done in the past. And now it's a $450 million hole just for that. So now you got this crap going on. I mean, these guys have unleashed a Pandora's box of badness and evil, and guess who's going to be on the stick for it?
Yeah. So didn't I see, Skip, somewhere a big furore because the Republicans said they wouldn't necessarily vote to extend the Medicaid expansion after the end of 2016, and Maggie the Red's all upset?
I saw that in the Betsy, you'll like this, that the Health and Human Services Committee in the New Hampshire House voted against extending Medicaid expansion, which we can fill you in later on in the vulgarities of the Republican politics here this year. But, if that happens, all bets are off. And we have a state representative in the room with us right now, Max Abramson. Max, any rumblings coming from that you could? I mean, Betsy is a national person. She'd love to be able to bring this story somewhere else.
So I had one point on the Medicaid expansion, Obamacare. More and more people are saying not just make sure that people have insurance, but the question is how many people have quality insurance, Medicare or better. And what's happening is Obama is taking Medicare and turning it into Medicaid. He's putting large numbers of people on Medicaid. They're taking private insurance plans and they're dumbing it down and reducing it to the quality of Medicaid. So the number of people with quality insurance plans is going down every year. So yes, you have insurance, but is it really going to cover you when you really need it? When you really have to have a heart operation or cancer operation?
Right. And I hear from so many young people, by the way, that they've been bamboozled into signing up for Obamacare, and then they don't realize with this $5,000 deductible, they're never going to get their money back because they may go to the doctor 2 or 3 times a year, and they're shocked to tell me that they have to pay full freight when they go to the doctor because they've got this huge deductible.
So you want to?
You know what would have been a better solution would have been to just get the federal government out of healthcare altogether, and just pass a law overturning what was it, McCarran-Ferguson Act of 1945.
Yes.
Just guarantee every private citizen the ability to buy catastrophic coverage from any provider anywhere in the country.
I so agree.
And
don't fool them into thinking they have something they don't have.
Right.
All right,
I think that's terrible to see. Halftime?
By the way, I'm coming up to see you on April 17th and 18th, but I hear you're not going to be there at the First in the Nation.
No, well, we may or may not be. Most of the people running that don't care for us very much, so
we'll talk to you a little more about that after the break. I think Steve's telling us.
Yep, we're going to take about 60 seconds. Stay on the phone. We'll be right back.
This is the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now, at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested, riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
Singing the healthcare blues. Welcome back to GrokTALK. We have Dr. Betsy McCaughey on the phone. Skip stepped out. Mike is still here with me, and Max Abramson is, of course, with us. And Marmar Rogers is supervising, because we need that. And this is GrokTALK. Once again, check us out on Facebook and Twitter. Just look up GrokTALK, and don't forget to listen to this in past programs on the wide array of media resources we have available to you: Stitcher, iTunes, Spreaker, iHeart, TuneIn, Tumblr, YouTube, Ustream, Blip TV, and of course at GraniteGrok.com. So let's get back into the conversation here and see where it takes us. Somebody was going to say something before we went on break. Was somebody going to say something?
Well, we were discussing the upcoming First in the Nation event
right. Yep.
in Nashua, and I just wanted to mention that I'm coming up. I know everybody wants me to talk about health care, and I will be bringing the big bill, but most of my presentation is about Hillary. And,
that's tremendous.
What we need to know about Hillary, and I have several pieces coming out this week, one in the New York Post Monday, on the Fox website Sunday or Monday, so keep an eye peeled, Newsmax, about Hillary's fake fraudulent claims that she is a glass ceiling breaker.
Send those to us if you would, and we'll post them up.
Good, we'll do that.
Yeah.
So, and now tell me why you're not coming, because I'm pretty excited about coming back to New Hampshire. Haven't been in a couple of months, and hope you still have the snow when I get there. We're getting plenty in Connecticut today.
Yeah. Well, again, Glenn Beck is the latest of the people who resigned from the GOP, and he has this line of the spine of a worm, the ethics of whores, and the integrity of pirates. And frankly, the establishment GOP here in New Hampshire does not like us at all, because we basically we hate everybody, but we try to hold them to account. We don't care about your words; we care about your results, and their results suck, to be perfectly honest with you.
Which is why, for example, we went after the Republicans in the Senate last year over ObamaCare, the effort to foist Medicaid expansion upon New Hampshire, which eventually succeeded with half the Republicans and all of the Democrats voting for it, which tells you who really wanted the bill.
And us refusing to toe their line has made them upset with us. And
So there are some.
I also oppose that Medicaid expansion. But just to weigh in on the other side, I'm coming
that's true.
Because I want the nation to win. I want the Republican Party, which is the only major party alternative to the Democrats, to win. I want to be part of that winning effort.
It would be nice if they were winning, if they were living up to their promises. But you look in D.C., and we're seeing the same things here in Concord. They've made all these, what I thought were rather simple promises to be able to do, and they've weaseled out of every single one.
True.
And I'm seeing, and they hate the phrase that we keep using, which is there doesn't seem to be a dime's worth of difference between the two. And when you look at the results on illegal immigration, spending, I mean, you name issue after issue for which we should not even have to worry about how a Republican would vote, they're sometimes leading the issue as if they were Democrats.
Right.
But
don't forget, there are some of our folks coming. Ted Cruz will be there.
And
Scott Walker will be there. We've got some people to really cheer for who are coming.
And that's true. And we just did a whole bunch of stuff with Ted Cruz, and we're looking to talk to Rick Perry and a bunch of the other what we consider more liberty and freedom folks.
Yes.
But it's the general opposition here in New Hampshire that the establishment GOP has made it quite clear they hate the base. And at the last leadership forum that Jennifer Horn had here in New Hampshire a while ago, there was a complete absence of what I call the liberty and freedom type folks at that place. And it was apparent. And a message was sent. And it's like, it's sort of like the old Groucho Marx program. Why would I belong to a club that doesn't want me?
I'm going to try to get you to come on over and hear a few of us speak for real freedom.
You know what? We may still do that, Dr. Betsy, but there's also something else going on, and the press release came out yesterday, so now I can tell you. There is a large group of liberty and freedom folks working on a project to try and get conservative candidates through the primaries, because I don't know if you read Richard Vigory's book, Takeover, and where he says it's the primaries, stupid. If you don't get your conservative through the primaries because A, there's too many of them, or B, you're too disorganized, you're never going to get. You're never going.
They say they're not electable.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Or you're never going to get a conservative elected. So we have a project here, essentially, to present, to winnow, and to get the people, not the leadership of this group, to choose a candidate that most of them will unite behind in order to push the primary vote or to bulge it in one particular direction to get a conservative through. That so that we're not just looking at the establishment putting up one candidate and the conservatives putting up 20, which we know isn't going to work.
And the name of that group is?
The political arm that is going to hold events and caucuses is the 603 Alliance. There is a sister group called the Conservative Business League of New Hampshire, which is going to do more educational and event kind of work. But the goal is to get to a caucus in the later part of this year, certainly for presidential contenders, but if we manage to be successful, we'll be looking into assisting with state races too.
Oh, good. And tell me, aren't you having an event? Didn't you mention that you were having an event right after the First in the Nation?
Absolutely. Our kickoff event, as announced in the press release, and I'll forward you a copy, is on April 19th at the same location, so that people can stay over if they wish.
Oh, good.
And they are looking for speakers, right?
Yes, and you would certainly be invited to speak at that as a constitutionalist, if you would so wish.
Lovely.
And, of course, we'll be happy to assist with accommodations if you're staying over.
Great. Well, it sounds like a wonderful opportunity, a wonderful occasion. I can't wait to be part of it.
Okay, well that's terrific, and we'll rethink our opposition to the First in the Nation and see if they'll rethink their opposition to us.
That's right. Please do, and please come hear all the juicy details about Hillary Clinton, because when I hear her claim that she struggled up the career ladder and understands what working women are doing, please, she made it where she is on the shameful coattails of her philandering husband.
Absolutely. Theirs is indeed the unholiest of unholy alliances. They agreed to stay together to further each other's ambitions, and they've done pretty damn well at it. And now they've got all the tyrants and potentates around the world funding their lifestyle in the hope that they'll own the next president.
Yes. Well put.
I turned my mic off again because I was coughing. So, Dr. McCaughey, we had a couple minutes left, about 3 or so. Anything else you want to fill us in on real quick?
Well, yes, there are two things I'd very much like to fill you in on. One is my passion, and it's not political, although it does reflect the deep failures of big government, and that is Clostridium difficile. Almost everybody listening has been touched by this. This is the most numerous hospital infection, and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention just announced last week, 2 weeks ago, that 29,000 Americans are picking up this bug and dying from it. 29,000, right? This is double what they estimated just 3 years before. And not only were they wrong about how many people were affected, but they were wrong about what to do about it. This is caused by unclean hospitals. The nickname for this disease is C. diff, and you get it because you're a patient, and you touch the contaminated surfaces right around your bed in your hospital room, and then you touch your lips or you touch your food, and you ingest this deadly bacterium that causes C. diff. And if you come to my website, hospitalinfection.org, I can explain what to do about it. But in one sentence, here's what to do. If you're going to the hospital to visit someone you love, forget the flowers, forget the candy, bring a canister of bleach wipes and wipe all the surfaces around your loved one's bed. You could be saving their life.
Wow.
Okay, what's the other thing?
That's what they did. Well, let me just
go
on
ahead.
for a second.
As long as you like.
That's what they did at the Mayo Clinic. The one thing they did, they wiped the surfaces around the patient's bed once a day with a bleach wipe and reduced this infection rate by 85%. So I ask you, why isn't every hospital in the nation doing this?
We had a bill go through the New Hampshire legislature 5 or 6 years ago. The only new mandate that they came up with under that Republican majority was that every single hospital had to report its infection rate. And as soon as they had to report their infection rate, boy, their infection rates went down because they didn't want to be known as losing patients because of germs.
It's a dirty kept secret, these infection rates in hospital, but it's the fourth largest cause of death in the United States. It kills more people than AIDS, breast cancer, and auto accidents combined.
And firearms.
Can you imagine being able to eliminate this problem, almost eliminate it, just by cleaning the hospital room?
The people at Clorox are on board. So
special interests.
Really, this is so disturbing because the government is telling everyone that this is caused by overuse of antibiotics. That's simply not true. If that germ doesn't enter your body, you're never going to get C. diff no matter how many antibiotics you're on.
That's an important distinction, too, because that's a story that's been going around for a long time. All right, we got about 45 seconds left.
Right. Okay. So we've got Obamacare is on the road to extinction, depending on what the Supreme Court does, right? Hillary, don't believe her bogus claims to be breaking the glass ceiling, right? And number 3, we have to hold the line against this deal with Iran. And it appears as if even those senators who unfortunately approved Secretary John Kerry to be Secretary of State are now developing some backbone, and we will be able to stop this Iran deal.
All right, outstanding. Thank you, Dr. McCaughey, for on a moment's notice coming on the program.
Really appreciate it, and we'll touch base with you a little later, Betsy, if that's okay.
Did we lose you? Oh, we did. That's odd.
Oh, dang.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. McCaughey, for spending some time with us. This is GrokTALK. I'm Steve McDonald here with Skip Murphy, Mike Rogers, Max Abramson. Coming up, the Squirrel Round. Who knows what we'll talk about? Could be anything. Might even be squirrels. We'll be right back.
Rock.